Hello everybody, Sparks1701 here, and today we're going to take a look at the original version of a character that is about to appear once again in the Michael Bay directed live-action Transformer movies. Now, normally I would have done this and had it posted during the weekend that The Last Night would be appearing in theaters, but I've got something special lined up for next month, and I've got a guy pre-selected for the week after it comes out, so now's as good of a time as any. We're going to take a look at the Generation 1 Autobot Weapons Supervisor Crosshairs. Now, Crosshairs here first appeared in 1987 as one of the first Target Master characters. He would also be available in 1988. He would be discontinued in 1989, and we would not get a replacement for him. Now, as a Target Master, it means that, for those of you who did not catch my earlier video of Quake, a Target Master is a character who has a weapon that transforms into a humanoid-shaped character. And we'll take a look at that feature right now by removing the gun from his hand. Give me. This is his partner, Pinpointer. To put him back as the human, you would fold the barrels up and then fold him up at the waist, and there you have it. Get out of the way, Crosshairs, so everybody can see your buddy here. This is his partner, Pinpointer. As for articulation, well, he can do that. He bends at the waist, and that's really about it, folks. Nothing really to get excited about him. Now, according to the lore, Pinpointer here is a Nebulon character. He worked as a police sniper prior to working alongside with Crosshairs. And the two of them work together pretty well. So they both appreciate the value of patience and one good lucky shot. Transform him back and put him back inside. Now, Crosshairs here, as we were getting into, unlike how he's presented in Michael Bay's movies. Oh, and by the way, anybody that wants to know, I saw the last trailer on The Last Night, and let's just say that's put me off of Michael Bay's movies for good. But in the original G1 lore, Crosshairs here is a weapons supervisor. So that makes him not only responsible for the acquisition of weapons and ammunition for the Autobots, but it also puts him in charge of the maintenance of their weapons. So he tends to be a bit more on the overcautious side due to the fact that he's seen far too many of his fellow soldiers get seriously injured or even killed when their weapons were not properly maintained and pretty much exploded, either in their hands or back in their faces or whatever, upon being fired. The problem with Crosshairs on his extremely cautious attitude is that he tends to apply it to everything in his life. So it also means he puts off various basic maintenance that even he requires due to being overly cautious. There are times that he's even being overly cautious in battle and won't waste the ammunition unless he's guaranteed he will make the hit. But of course, when you're carrying a dual rocket-propelled grenade launcher, is it always necessary to get a solid direct hit? Looking at any of you out there that play first-person shooter games and you have a rocket-propelled grenade launcher as your weapon, how many of you can attest to even a near miss can sometimes be just as devastating as a direct hit? Let's take a quick look now at his articulation. And the articulation is kind of fair on Crosshairs here. He does have a joint at his wrist, so you can adjust his hands a little bit as necessary. It's more for transforming him than anything else. He does have a joint at the shoulder, so it does allow for the shoulder to rotate. There's a lot of pins and grooves inside the shoulder, so it does allow it to be positioned and stay in that position, depending on the wear of the toy. As you can tell, this one's pretty solid here, because it has got a lot of squeaking and ratcheting getting his arms into position. Does have a joint at his knees, which allows his knees to bend, but unfortunately, because of this bar here on his legs, keep his legs together, you are pretty much bending both legs at the same time. But they can also bend forward, so he can sit down in something of an awkward-looking pose. That just looks too silly. And he does have a joint here at his ankle, but again, that's more for transforming him than for actual poses, especially since the biggest limitation is, of course, this bar here in between his legs. But now let's move into transforming him, and despite being a toy of a larger size, he is relatively simple to transform. We start first by removing Pinpointer. Set him aside. Alright, first thing we do is you will take his hands and you will fold them inside the arm. Bring the other arm up, fold it in like so. The next you're going to push his head inside, so that only just the forehead sticks up like that. Then you'll take this little piece here on the back and fold it over and just snap it into place. And next you'll fold the arms straight down. And then you'll fold them up at the shoulders and fold them in under his chest cockpit. Snap them into place like that. The next, you'll fold the side wheels here out to the side. Get the rear wheels out, just like that. These are a little stiff here on mine. And then you'll come back here, fold his feet down flat, and then bend his legs at the knee and fold them up onto the top of the vehicle. Just exactly like that. Just the camera here, and there is his alternate mode. It's described as a Cybertronian car, but I believe the instructions also describe it as an armored vehicle. This was getting more into the time when they were going with fanciful, sort of futuristic designs, or trying to claim that they were Cybertronian in nature. So it doesn't look remotely like anything here on Earth. And as he's a target master, does have a hole here just above the driver's compartment, so that you can mount Pinpointer in there, and you've got an impromptu turret. Now, this is probably, in my thoughts, folks, the best use of the Target Master feature, due to the fact that it states in the lore that the Target Master figure here, they act independently, so they can fire by themselves without the input of the Transformer, if they so choose. And in vehicle mode, that would probably be the best use for it. That leaves the Transformer can function more on the driving, and the Target Master guy can act as an impromptu turret or as an independent gunner to handle various threats. Unless the two of them unless one or the other happens to spot something that might be a bigger priority. And of course, with the way this guy transforms as well, you can raise the legs up, and now you've got an anti-aircraft weapon. Unfortunately, the hip's so loose on this one that he doesn't stay up by himself, but it's kind of a cute play feature. Now we'll take a look at his accessories, and like with most of the large Target Masters, he only has just the one accessory, and that's Pinpointer here. This is him all totally folded out. If I believe I remember correctly, his buddy Cup, the Target Master version of Cup, also has a gun in a similar shape, but in radically different colors. So that's something to bear in mind. They didn't do a lot of variety on how the guns transformed. And of course, show you again on how it becomes. There he becomes the man. Just fold the barrels up, and there's the man. Fold him in half at the waist, with the barrels out. There's the gun. Not real imaginative or different, but hey, it is what it is. Alright, moving right along now, we will take a look at Crosshairs' instruction manual. Oops. Darn Butterfingers. Get it unfolded here. Take a look. The Target Master figures, they would start by showing how to change the weapon, because in the box he'd be packaged in a separate compartment as the figure. And then they show you how to make him into the gun. And as always, how to make the vehicle an attack one. And then, of course, moving right along to the actual transforming of him. Pretty straightforward. And then you get to the stickers. And then lastly, the last page, where once again we have the rub sign, save the robot points, and read the text specs. Now to move on to the text spec, we're going to instead go a little special here. We're going to get him out. We're going to get Crosshairs out of the way for a moment, because what I have is the box. But more importantly, as another rare treat, that's the interior bubble. Yes, I bought this toy just like that. It was opened. So Don't anybody start panicking that I may have broken something very valuable. As you can see, this bubble in here, that would have been where Crosshairs is. And right here, they would have had Pinpointer in human mode. And that way they'd line up with these two windows. Over here, so I'll get a good look at it. Yeah, rather decent looking picture of Crosshairs here. I notice on this artwork he doesn't have the bar. Alright, since the box slid on me, we'll just take a look here at the bottom. Which just basically features robot and alternate modes. On the top here, you got the same thing as they had always done for a good while. The basic changing of the two. And the sides are more or less just like the bottom. And we get to the back side, and this was the mural for 1987 to highlight predominantly the headmasters and the monster bots. And of course, right back in here, you've got a very faint looking shot of 6 shot in there. Well, rather impressive mural, although it would be nice if we could see the whole thing so we could get more of a look at Scorponok down here. But then again, Fortress Maximus cost the most, so they really wanted to get us to go nuts. Go nuts and get that big toy. And of course, as you can see, Crosshairs was worth 2 robot points. And then we'll move over here to his tech spec. And we got, like always, picture. It matches the one right here on the front of the box. It's done in red to show he's an Autobot, and even indicates him as an Autobot. It gives his name as Crosshairs, and his function is Weapons Supervisor. His motto is, don't shoot until you see the wires in their eyes. Meticulous, cautious, some would say overcautious. Won't take a shot unless he's sure he can't miss. Won't waste ammo. Pinpointer, his dual rocket-propelled grenade launcher, can lock onto a target in less than 0.0003 seconds, but usually trusts Crosshairs to decide when to shoot. In vehicle mode, maximum speed 160 miles per hour. Range 750 miles. Built for traversing rough terrain. And then now we'll lay the decoder here over the grid. This isn't as easy as it looks. How wide this box is. Alright, it lists his strength here as 6. His intelligence is 8. His speed is 4. His endurance is 8, his rank is 6, his courage is 8, his firepower is 7, and his skill is 9. So, speed is obviously his biggest deterrent. Otherwise, just about average on strength, but pretty good on skill and firepower. Which is about what you would come to expect from a weapons supervisor of any caliber. Now we get down to my thoughts. What do I think of him? Crosshairs in his Generation 1 form is kind of a boring character due to his constant need to be overcautious and being more meticulous about how and when he will fire his weapon. There's many of us that have either been in the service where it's dependent on us to fire our weapons, or even those of us that have played a lot of the various action games where we're required to do a lot of shooting in them, knows the value of firing whenever we can. Especially if we know we have a chance. we're not always going to get the opportunity to make a direct hit. And in a lot of cases, a good shot that's even lucky is better than not taking the shot at all. But as a toy, Crosshairs is about fair. I mean, the biggest attraction, again, that I've stated before is this bar here in between his legs. It really doesn't serve any sort of purpose whatsoever, and it hinders the articulation, especially when you take a look at the picture on the instructions here, you know, down on one knee, and he'd be more than capable of doing that, except for that stinking bar in between his legs. So that kind of hurts him in my standings. The vehicle mode, it's plausible. I mean, I really don't like it. I really didn't like a lot of the futuristic designs that the Transformers were going with at this point in the game, but when you factor in that at least he was built for going over rough terrain, that gives him a slight edge over many of the other Autobots, as too many of them were done up as racing or exotic sports cars. So that would keep them from being able to drive over rougher terrain, where that at least allows Crosshairs an edge. Plus, you factor in that he's got a rather unique and very useful function for the Autobots. That does make him somewhat of an essential character for the Autobot army. So I'm going to put Crosshairs here in the middle tier. He's certainly not good enough for the top tier, but even with his flaws and faults, he's really not bad enough to be down on the bottom tier. And that concludes my review of the Generation 1 Autobot Weapons Supervisor Crosshairs. If you liked the video, please thumbs up it here on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button down below if you haven't already. And please, please do share your comments in the comments section below. I love to hear feedback from my viewers. This is Sparkster1701 saying I will catch you all later.